The system is broken, and as I said before, eventually it's going to collapse. They want it to collapse. Now, isn't that an interesting, funny thing for me to say? Why would the
Yes.
banks want their banking system to collapse? And the answer is very simple, because they have something better in mind, at least better for them. And that won't involve the old traditional use of money at all. Money will disappear as we have known it. They have this thing called the central bank digital currencies, which is something they will control. It won't be your money or mine, it's their money. We'll be allowed to use it if we obey their dictates, and they'll have complete control over us. This is why they are crashing the banking system now, because they want the dollar to collapse, so that people will be desperate, and they'll be looking to the same people that caused the problem to create a solution to the problem. And people will be so desperate they'll accept anything, including this horrible thing called central bank digital currencies.
I want to start off by giving our praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. And this is going to be a review of a video featuring Edward Griffin, who is giving some information here regarding the looming banking collapse and the central bank digital currency, the social credit score, and everything that goes along with what we've been blowing the trumpet on for quite some time now. And it might seem that we are beating a dead horse at this point, but most of your camps are not bringing forth edification on this topic. Of course, the premier camp that's bringing you the 100% truth is GMS, which I am not a part of. But other than them, not many different camps are bringing this topic out. And it is most relevant and pertinent. Okay? Ezekiel chapter 33 talks about the Lord setting watchmen to watch for danger and report to the house of Israel. I can talk about it in the 7th verse of Ezekiel chapter 33. So we are watching and we are reporting, and it might seem like it's redundant that we're bringing this out and bringing it out and bringing it out, but we're bringing it out. This is Ezekiel 33, starting with verse 31. And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness. You see? So we have a lot of individuals in the house of Israel that are not doing the words of Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi. You know, they know how to wear their fringes, and they know how to say shalom, and they know how to keep the Passover and these things, but they're not really warning the sheep. And even those who are warning the sheep, the people who are listening to the warnings are taking it for entertainment. Like it says in verse 32, and lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that hath a pleasant voice and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do them not. So when you listen to someone playing a song, it's entertaining. And when you hear someone playing well on an instrument, it's entertaining. You see, and that's what most people are taking this ministry for, and are taking these warnings and admonitions for. Entertainment. Verse 33. And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. So we are prophesying the downfall of Mystery Babylon, which is America. We are prophesying the collapse of the economic system. We are prophesying a digital currency being implemented whereby you have to comply with the government, surrendering your bodily autonomy to do so in order to buy and sell. We are prophesying that you are going to have to receive the mark of the beast in order to transact any type of commerce. And like we just read, when this prophecy comes to pass, and it will come, then you're going to know who the true men of the Lord are. And all these fortune cookie prophets that are just distracting you from the real issues that we are going to have to face, they're going to be exposed. This is Habakkuk chapter 2. I'm going to start from the second verse. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. So these prophecies that were written in this book are plain. Okay? They are plain to those who have an eye to see and an ear to hear. Verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. So the things that were written have a specific time when they're going to be fulfilled. But when it's the end, it's going to be fulfilled. And everyone is going to see it clearly. It goes on. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So these things that we prophesying are indeed going to come, and it's going to come with such a swiftness. They're going to be upon us immediately, man. And when they come, man, if you had not already understood the prophecy, you're going to fall right along into the trap that they're setting for you. Because in this country of Belize, we have DigiWallet, we have something called NBB Pay, we have eCash, right? And there's one more, I forget, maybe Atlantic Bank, something or the other, where we have 4 digital currencies set up and already implemented in place right now, where you can buy and sell using your cell phone and not have to use any cash, right? And all over the world, it's already in place. This apparatus of the digital currency, right, to replace the physical dollar is already in place. When you want to switch over a system that has been in place for a long time to a new system, what you do is you have both systems run concurrently for a period of time, so that when you make the switch over, it's efficient and permanent without missing a beat, without skipping a step. So they already got the trap set and baited, right? And those of you who are following false prophets are going to be blindsided. Because if whoever you're following is not drumming it into you, beating it into you, right? And we're talking about the impending collapse of the monetary system being replaced by a digital cashless society, right? Which I would say is the most pertinent development in biblical prophecy today. If whoever you are following is not teaching you about this and warning you about this, so much so that you are almost sick of hearing about it, they are a false prophet. And you're going to find out. You will find out. So who you're following is very important, because they might lullaby you to sleep. And so you miss the signs and you're not prepared. Ultimately, you should be working out your own salvation with fear and trembling, like you talk about in Philippians 2 and 12. But the watchman is going to be held responsible for not warning the people. You see that? So all of you Israelite men who are not out doing this work, just keep that in mind, man. A lot of y'all think this thing is a joke. You see that? We don't want no blood on our hands. Not yet. You understand? Isaiah 56 and 10 talks about your pastors being dumb dogs, greedy dogs, who won't warn the people. Ezekiel 34 and 2, I think it is, talks about The shepherds that feed themselves. You know those ones who are always selling all kinds of fringes and music and caps and all kinds of religious paraphernalia, but not warning you. If y'all are following those people at this point, then you deserve what you get, man. You deserve to be blindsided. And when you're looking for answers, the internet won't be like it is now. You won't be able to get no answers. And the Lord is going to retract his word, and probation would have been closed. Okay? And that goes into Amos, the 8th chapter, from the 11th verse on down, which talks about the famine of the word. And we've done lessons on all of these things. This is a sophisticated takedown that these devils are orchestrating, man. It's a controlled demolition where they're going to take everything down at once to put you in such a state of discombobulation, if I'm saying that word right, where you're going to be totally messed up in your head. Because they want to have you in such a desperate situation that you just don't know where to turn because you didn't even see it coming and everything is up in the air, waiting to drop down on top of you. You don't know what to do. Ultimately, it's the work of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, because even though, you see Esau keeping things afloat, like the currency, for instance, even though BRICS came out, the US dollar hasn't dropped at all, right? And even though there's war in the so-called Middle East, the prices of oil have not gone up. So you see that this is a contrived system that they're working with, man, where they can exert control over it as to not panic the fish that are about to be snared in an evil net. Like you talk about in Ecclesiastes 9 and 12, I think it is. Okay? But ultimately, this is the work of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, because what's getting ready to come down on the scene, and we always, always, always bring it out. Matter of fact, let's get it. This is Revelation, the 3rd chapter, starting with the 10th verse. It says, "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth." So that hour of temptation is when you're thinking everything is honky-dory, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, everything is completely gone awry. The monetary system is down, the internet is down, the energy is unavailable, the food is scarce, right? You don't know what to do, where to turn. And you either gonna choose to be with the Most High and his son, Yahawah Yahawashi, or you're gonna turn to the so-called white man, who you've been trained to depend on. You see that? And most of y'all, sadly, are gonna just go along with the system, just like you did in 2020. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 11. It says, "Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown." So when it says, "Behold, I come quickly," it seems like he's taking a long time, and people are mocking the prophets and saying, "Oh, like you talk about in, I think it's 2 Peter 3 and 3, that we've been saying this for the longest time and nothing is happening and nothing is happening." Or is it 2 Peter 3 and 8? But when it does finally happen, it's going to seem like it's quick, like, man, nothing else is going to matter at that time. Imagine a school of fish. It's just swimming along, just having fun. Unbeknownst to them, they're swimming right over an evil net. And everything is fun up until that net is snared and pulled out of the water. And then they're just a bunch of fish just flopping and flipping and dying, right? Can't even get a breath of air. That's how people are going to be when this thing happens, man. Like it talks about in Ecclesiastes 9 and 12. Let's get it. It says, "For man also knoweth not his time. as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time, when it falleth upon them suddenly. And this is going to be the biggest net and the biggest snare and the most evil time ever, like we read about in Jeremiah 30 and 7. The time of Jacob's trouble, right? And Daniel, the 12th chapter, I think it is, from the first verse. Let's get that. It says, "And at that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of my people." And Michael is one of the archangels, all right? Michael is not the Savior. Michael is not Yahawashi, all right? It goes on. "And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book." You see, so this time that's coming is going to be so perilous, man. This is how the Lord's name is going to be magnified, because we bringing it out now. Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Giving our praises, glory, and honor to those names. And this might prove a useful exercise for those of you listeners. Look and see what names are being exalted by the folks who are not warning you consistently and repeatedly about the times that we live in, right? Chances are they're not calling on the names Yahawah, and they're not calling on the names Yahawashi. They're calling on every other name. Acts 4 and 12 says there's only one name given to men under heaven whereby men can be saved. Proverbs 30 from verse 4 on down asks, "What is the name of the Heavenly Father and His Son? If thou canst, tell." So we telling it, man. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, and Yahawashi is the name of His only begotten Son. Okay? All power, all glory, all vengeance belongeth to Him, like you read about in Psalms the 94th chapter. I think it's the first verse. Let's just get that. O Lord power, to whom vengeance belongeth. O power, to whom vengeance belongeth. Show thyself. Lift up thyself, thou judge of the earth. Render a reward to the proud. Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? You see that? And it goes on, man. But that's how the names Yahawah, Yahawashi are going to be lifted up. Through His judgment, like you read about in Psalms 9:16, where the Lord is known by His judgment. People ain't going to understand the Most High because of His tender mercies. People take you for soft and weak when you show them mercy. So it's going to take cruel punishments to understand who He is, man. And that's why we lifting up those names from now. So that when y'all see those names being lifted up on a worldwide level, you're going to remember who the men of the Lord were lifting up those names. So it would behoove you to learn those names and start calling on them from now, so that you're not stuttering over them when you need someone to call on. Because it's coming a time when nothing else is going to matter except the Lord and His mercy. Indeed, that time is right now. In Revelation 3 and 11, it says, "Hold that fast which thou hast." When it says hold that fast, it means hold it tight, that no man take thy crown. Because there's only a limited set of seats, standing room only, for the 144,000, man. Sure, there's going to be more elect than the 144,000, but if you are man, you should be striving for the masteries. You understand? Or else what really are you living for? Put it down in the comments, man. What's more important than this ministry? Put it down in the comments. Because when this thing really comes about, all that you were working for and all of your aspirations, and you wanted to be a musician, or you wanted to be a doctor, or you wanted to be a movie star, or all of these vain things ain't gonna mean nothing. Check it out. So all they're waiting for is the right situation and the right crisis for them to bring down the banking system. Whether they use a cyber attack and blame it on Russia or China or whoever else, right? Even though they're all in on it, to bring down the system and do away with cash. And then what are you going to do? Are you ready to forego buying and selling? Are you ready to put your faith into practice? Being a part of this ministry and a part of this truth is more than just knowing that you're an Israelite and wearing your fringes and saying shalom, and even knowing the names of the Heavenly Father and His Son. When our Lord comes back, He's going to be looking for faith. And faith can only be tested when you have to choose one, either the world or the Most High. Man cannot serve two masters, like we always get in Matthew 6:24. The hour of temptation is going to be that litmus test to see where your faith resides. Lord willing, we are counted worthy to escape this deception that's coming on the scene, man. So now let's continue listening to these important points from Edward Griffin regarding this situation in which we find ourselves. Giving our praises, glory, and honor to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Shalom.
I'd like you all to welcome G. Edward Griffin to the program. Mr. Griffin, it's always, like I said, an honor to speak with you. Thank you for giving us some of your time today.
Well, thank you, Danielle. It's a pleasure being back on your program.
Let's start with the banking crisis.
The banks are not in crisis, even though they like to have us say the banking crisis and what are we going to do to protect the banks and how do we keep them from failing and all that sort of thing. I think it's kind of a naive view to think that the banks are in trouble, because once you understand how deep and wide their control is over almost every important aspect of our society and our culture, even certainly our economy, our political system, all of that. These as our friends call them, the banksters, are right in the middle of all of that, and you get to be old like I am, and you get a little bit skeptical about these phrases like banking crisis and health crisis and so forth, and you realize that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So let me clarify on why I started off with that little bit of a warning that I'm going to be skeptical about this. The banks obviously are allowing this, what we call crisis, to happen. In fact, they created it. This didn't happen because of some atmospheric condition, or because the weather was bad, or because there was a virus, or because there was anything. It was because the banks who own the Federal Reserve System, the Federal Reserve System is a cartel of banks. Let's get clear on that. So when we speak of the Federal Reserve, we speak of banks, the big, powerful banks. And these people are experts. They know what sound monetary policy is, and they know what unsound monetary policy is, and they know that the unsound is more profitable to them than the sound. The sound is good banking, good reserves, keeping your promises, considering that when the depositors put their money in your bank, that it's their money and not yours. All of these good practices, the bankers know about them, but they don't practice them. For a long time, they've always pretended to be conservative and very concerned about the economy, the welfare of the nation. But it's always been like any other cartel, whether it's a banana cartel or an oil cartel. A banking cartel is no different. it's formed for the benefit of the members of the cartel, period. And they have to go through a lot of effort to convince the politicians and the public that they really care about America. They really care about the economy. And I'm here to say that the only reason or the extent to which they care about the economy is the extent to which it benefits them. And it has nothing to do with the consumers or the depositors. Now, having said all that, let's take a look at it from my skeptical glasses. And what I
Please.
see is that the banks have decided that this system that they've created a long time ago, which has always benefited them, even the casual observer has to notice that the banks are still in business while a lot of other industries and businesses have gone out of business in the so-called economic bubbles and crashes and all these crises they talk about. The banks always survive, and they came out the other side of it very well indeed, and having more money, more assets, more power than ever before. And so it's obvious that these crises are not damaging to the banks. So what is it all about? Why did the banks allow these crises to happen? It's because it's profitable to them. It's a means of acquiring the assets of the nation gradually and slowly through a process of inflation. That's the simple version. There are other little side eddy currents that are also at play, but the major one is inflation of the economy, the loss of purchasing power of the dollar. Every time the dollar loses every time the dollar loses one unit of purchasing power, whatever that unit is, somebody gains it. Nobody asks, well, it went to somebody. Who did it go to? And if you want to follow the loss of the purchasing power that the consumer suffered through, the gain came to the cartel members, which is a partnership between government and banks. So the gain came to the government and to the Federal Reserve System, which is the cartel of the banks. So that's it. So now, why would they be crashing the banking system? Now, we can see that's actually happening. And,
Yes.
and that's what started this whole thing with your question. It's a banking crisis. Well, no, it's not, because the banks, in my opinion at least, have decided that this game that they've been playing all this time has gone about as far as it can. They have inflated the money supply hundreds of times greater than any time before in history. And even with 1/10 or 1/100th of the inflation that we see now, even in the historical record of 1/100th of that, systems have always collapsed. So what are you going to say about it when it's 100 times greater than anything we've seen before? They know it's going to collapse. Actually, when you look at the banking system and the balance sheets on their financial summaries, it's already collapsed, but nobody knows it. They're just continuing to pretend like it's still working. And they're pumping money into the economy so fast, it's ridiculous. Nobody in their right mind, certainly in the banking industry, nobody dreams or even claims that these debts are going to be repaid. They cannot be repaid. The system is broken, and as I said before, eventually it's going to collapse. So now we come to the question, when is it going to collapse? Well, it's collapsing right now, if it hasn't already, and the banks are leading it. They want it to collapse. Now, isn't that an interesting, funny thing for me to say? Why would the
Yes.
banks want their banking system to collapse? And the answer is very simple, because they have something better in mind, at least better for them. And that won't involve the old traditional use of money at all. Money will disappear as we have known it. They have this thing called the central bank digital currencies, which is something they will control. It won't be your money or mine, it's their money. We'll be allowed to use it if we obey their dictates, and they'll have complete control over us. This is why they are crashing the banking system now, because they want the dollar to collapse, so that people will be desperate, and they'll be looking to the same people that caused the problem to create a solution to the problem. And people will be so desperate they'll accept anything, including this horrible thing called central bank digital currencies. It's the major view of the Great Reset. That's not just monetary, it's social and cultural as well. And it includes even the dehumanization of us. It includes a lot of things other than money. But money is at the core of it, because it takes a lot of money to do these things. And these people don't have that money. They create it out of nothing. That's the game. That's always been the game.
I had someone on recently who said it's interesting that they almost stopped talking about central bank digital currencies. You remember it was a summer when Fed Now was coming out, and yes, we know that's the plumbing. It's not really a central bank digital currency, but there was a lot of talk, even in mainstream media, which never really, brings up central bank digital currencies, but talk of a digital dollar. And in fact, New Year's Day, we saw Christine Lagarde saying, talking of a central bank digital currency and how it will come to Europe soon. And yay, let's bring in a wonderful digital euro and it's going to make life wonderful for everyone. But since then, right, would you say it's been a few weeks where they've stopped, or a few months where they've stopped talking about it? Maybe there's a reason why. Maybe they don't want folks revolting. I mean, I'm just... these are all hypotheses,
Yes,
but
it's a
just
good
I
question.
do find it interesting. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it till just now, but now that I sort of rewind the tapes and play them for the past month or two or three, it does seem that there's less attention to the central bank digital currency, and that, of course, is your question: why would they play that game and not talk about it anymore? I think I'm going to guess at this, but I think if that's true, and the news has been tapered down on this issue, I think it would be because in the beginning they were just talking about how wonderful it would be, how convenient it would be, and how it would solve so many problems for us, and how it would even ensure our privacy and put those banks in their place, But now that the word is out and people like you and me and other commentators are yelling from the tops of the roofs that, hey, this is not what you think it is, and we're talking about the social credit system that's going to be attached to it, the loss of personal liberty, the health issues that are involved, all of those things. The alternative media is still very vocal and reaching a lot of people. I think it was their decision, if they have indeed backed off, they would certainly be wise to do so, because people are getting wise to it. So they would rather not have people talking about it at all.
I mean, we already use, credit cards, and we already use debit cards. They already know everything we're buying. But folks weren't seeing, to your point, that it goes way beyond just tracking, whether you bought yogurt today.
Right, way beyond that. Yeah, well, that's the thing. When people are waking up, now they don't want us to talk about it. They want us to think about war or some other crisis that they'll try and maneuver to distract us from the drama and the COVID pandemic that never really was a real pandemic, and the Great Reset and digital currencies. They don't want us to be too informed on that topic.
I wanted to bring up and go back to your point about dehumanization, because, I've seen other interviews where you've said this is what they're trying to do. The elites are trying to convert humans into robots so that they will do what they were told, not capable of disobeying or disagreeing. I think this is what we're up to. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Mr. Griffin, what do you mean? Convert us into robots? Explain.
Well, what is a robot? A robot is a machine. I guess you could start with that. Whether it's a mechanical machine or a biological machine, depending on how you define machine, it's something that has its own internal energy, and it does things in accordance with a goal and a method and a plan and so forth. Robots are robots, but we think of them in terms of our comic book depiction as being made of metal, but a robot could be a biological robot. In fact, some people say that we are actually robots, that we were created. Let's not worry about how we were created, because that's a big controversial topic. But the fact is that we were created through some process and some intelligence. A great deal of design and engineering went into us, and we're self-propelling, we're self-fueling. We repair each other. Anyway, we have goals and so forth. So it might be considered that we are already robots, but I don't look at it that way. But the point is that we're talking here about dehumanizing what used to be humans and getting control of their central nervous system and their brains and even their muscles, and determining how they act and what they think, how they feel. And you addressed a very important point, which is what these elitists are really hoping for, I believe, is to create a subcategory, a subspecies of the human being, where the mentality has been altered in such a way that they will become totally passive. They will do what they're told, and as you said, they will not complain. They won't be incapable of questioning authority. They just say, "I'm here to serve," and that's it. I think that's what they want to create. And of course, they have the other agenda, which is to prolong their own lifespan in some way so that they could live forever, or at least a great deal longer than anybody else. So it's weird. It's like a science fiction story, but it's real, and you can see it every day in the news. And now the cat is out of the bag, and you're going to see, I think, a huge cannonball going down the aisle here. People are going to wake up and say, well, what? You're going to take all my retirement benefits? You're going to take my house, my car, and have legal possession of it? And they changed the law, and I didn't know about it? And that should wake up a lot of people.